it made me feel really embarrassed to want to be good and want to be a professional athlete, because I didn't want people judging me for what I was trying to do. So, and I don't think they intentionally meant it to be so hurtful, but I did take it on board. Hey, Haz.
Hey Liz, how are you?
I'm good. I guess we're both kind of in lockdown, so it's a bit strange. But I am, lockdown here is not too bad. We can still go outside and exercise. So that's, as long as I can do that, I'm happy.
Same as up here, it's pouring rain at the moment.
Oh my gosh, it's raining here as well.
Get stuck into it. So Hi everyone, Joel and girls, and welcome to Vulnerability.
Most important question, what tea are you drinking?
Lemongrass and ginger. Lemongrass and ginger. Bit of a mouthful. It's one of my favourites. My favourite's actually licorice and peppermint.
Ah!
Licorice and peppermint?
Yeah.
Love it. A little bit jealous there.
Meant to be.
So Lizzie and I decided to start the conversation about being vulnerable after we were inspired by the Imperfects podcast by the Resilience Project, Hugh and Ryan. So shout out to them and thank you for inspiring us, and thank you for also opening up in so many ways so that everyone can hear and listen and know that they're not alone, that everyone goes through struggles. And we've realized that the more that we talk about our struggles, it's really empowering, and I guess it makes us feel like we're not the only ones, and it also makes our struggles feel less challenging.
Yeah, and from discussing everything about the imperfects, me and Harriet have discovered that when we do talk about these difficult things, it does make it better, as you said, Has. And also I think like sometimes it can seem like we don't struggle with things, or we live perfect lives, and no one does. We're all struggling with things. Everyone is struggling with something. So our hope is that by sharing what we struggle with, it'll help you guys feel, less alone in your struggles and more willing to talk about it with your friends as well.
Exactly. So let's go.
So I know in the video I said we were going to put all the questions on a deck of cards and then shuffle it up and pick random questions like that, but I just moved out and I realized we don't actually have a deck of cards. So instead, I put a whole lot of questions in my lovely Joel and Beanie, and we will be picking a question out of that. So,
questions from you. So thank you all the girls who wrote in with your questions. Some of them are quite challenging, and some of them will mean that we will have to open up a little bit and be honest and vulnerable.
Yes.
All right. Shall I go first? Can you pick one out?
Yeah. Are you ready? Let me show. And the lucky draw prize. All right. Okay, I'm going to show it to the screen and then you can read it out, Has.
Okay. What is one of the toughest times you've had with accepting your body? Okay. That's a tricky one. I think there's been a few times, and I've definitely spoken to you about this, Lizzie, but I'm pretty accepting of my body right now. It's taken me a little while and it's been a little bit of a roller coaster, but one thing that kind of springs to mind, and I've probably spoken about this story before, but it's when my body changed. It all started when I got kicked out of Spanish class. So a bit of a backstory. I went to France on exchange when I was 16. I was there for 3 months. I absolutely loved it. It was such a great experience, but it also meant that I was staying with a host family who ate quite differently to me. And I probably never realized growing up how my mum and dad used to cook quite healthy food. And I never really thought about what I was eating. And so I was eating a lot of breads and cheeses and all the really good things. And then I also got kicked out of Spanish class because I couldn't translate into French and then into Spanish. And so the Spanish was like, this Australian girl, she cannot be here. And so every time Spanish class was on, I would go to the canteen in my French school and I'd buy myself this panini with Nutella. It was about this big. It was probably about $1.50. And I would sit there by myself and have the best time and eat this. And I'd never really thought about food or changing weight or anything in the past. I was always really, really skinny. I got picked on about being skinny. And so that never ever crossed my mind. And it just so happened that in my 3 months in France, I'd put on 10 kilograms. So I went over to France at 61 kilograms and I came home at 71 kilograms. Wow. Now, when I was over there, I wasn't really aware. It didn't faze me. I was surrounded by people that didn't really, point that out at all, which was wonderful. But obviously when I came home, it was a big change. And when I got back, I had a lot of comments of, oh, like you've put on weight.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And people saying like, oh, wow, Harriet's got cellulite now. Oh, look, you've got little dimples. And I think that they said it to kind of mean well because I'd always been really skinny. Yeah. And they being like, oh, you're normal now. But people started pointing that out more and more and more. And I'd always kind of identified as, just being a little skinny kid. And I'd just gone through all these changes and I was trying to like accept my body and figure it out. But then I had all these like outside comments as well. And I just found it so overwhelming.
So yeah, like what was going through your mind when people started telling you those things, like saying that you had cellulite or you weren't as skinny anymore?
Yeah, gosh, I remember looking and I was like, oh yes, I do. And oh my God, I am bigger than I was. And I didn't really know what to do. And I felt quite uncomfortable. I think I identified with my certain body type and then it changed. And now it was being noticed by people and pointed out. And I remember going to carnivals and I'd probably put a towel around me more often, cover up more often. And it was more just the change. So in no way was anyone, saying you're really fat, or did I feel like, that I was at a point that wasn't, a healthy weight range or anything. It's not like that. It was more just such a change and adapting to your changing body and people out. And I just felt really self-conscious for quite a while. Yeah.
And it's never like nice when people are commenting on your body in that way, even though they don't mean it. Like to the person who's being commented on, it's pretty confronting.
It definitely was confronting. And I look back now and I was like, that's actually, a point that I was quite uncomfortable with myself and with my body. And that's not a really nice way to live. It's hard to go out and train and do all those things that you love when you're really concerned about people looking at you or how your body looks or how your body feels. And I came back and started to get back into training a little bit. And it's more of a mindset, I think. I think it's more just accepting your body for what it is.
Yeah.
Body actually changing back to anything or being a certain way. I think it's just our perceptions of our bodies and how we can be comfortable with it. That is the most important thing, because you can be critical at your body, whatever you look like. And we all have elements of that sometimes. So I think it's normal. You're not going to kind of abolish that straight away, but it takes time to be accepting and love your body and be okay with that.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of a cool story as well, like in that your body changed, and then but when your body changes, it's not the be all or end all. So like you weren't going to stay how you were forever. Like what I'm trying to get at is that like your body changes all the time and that's normal. I think a lot of girls kind of freak out when their bodies change, but it's not the end of the road.
Yeah. And then we all go through this change. And I think for me, it was heightened by the fact that no one saw me for 3 months. I went through all those changes. I was also eating a lot more and then boom, I'm back and I'm different. And, a bit of a unusual experience.
Well, imagine how unenjoyable France would have been if you hadn't been able to eat all those gorgeous paninis.
I know, right? And at that point, it never ever crossed my mind the fact that eating could gain weight, because I was just so energetic and had a metabolism and could eat whatever I want. But
it also probably happened at the same time. I feel like every girl reaches a point where like they come out of that like pre-pubescent, like just burning everything to like holding stuff.
Yeah. Definitely going through puberty or that
Yeah.
stage at the same time, which is always an awkward stage.
What a time.
What's going on? So if
Oh,
anyone else is going through that point at the moment, you're not alone.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
think that, thanks for sharing that, Has. I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't have known that about you. So, yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, your turn.
I'm a bit nervous, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it's hard to open up, and I think it's hard to open up to a point that anyone can watch this.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of good questions in here, so I'm curious to see what question comes out. All right, I'm going to hold mine up as well, and then you can read it out to me. Okay?
All right. Here goes. What was the worst thing ever said about you?
Ooh. Wow, that one requires a bit of thought, doesn't it? Have to.
Well, people can be pretty brutal sometimes.
Yeah.
I think what's the most in your mind right now?
Well, there's one thing that kind of jumps out the most, and it's not it wasn't something that one person said, but it was more something I went through when I was young. So when I was young, like around 17, it was when I just made the series and I was trying to be a professional athlete, and I had like created my website and all these cool things, and it felt really good to be doing that stuff. But because I was young, and sometimes our sport isn't taken that seriously, I got a lot of comments like that I was trying too hard, even at training as well. Like I would sometimes I would get the feeling that people were saying that I was trying too hard or like taking it too seriously when this was my dream and my passion. And that it made me feel really embarrassed to want to be good and want to be a professional athlete, because I didn't want people judging me for what I was trying to do. So, and I don't think they intentionally meant it to be so hurtful, but I did take it on board. So a lot of times when I was that age, I would go down to training and I would want to train really hard and do extras and like take it really seriously. But so there was part of me that wanted to do that, and then the other part of me was really nervous about being judged for doing that, and I didn't want to be seen like doing those things because I didn't want people talking behind my back or making fun of me. And then in the sessions where I didn't like do the extras or do the serious bits that I wanted to do, I would like finish the session and go home and then be in a complete mental state, being like telling myself, well, why didn't you do that? Like if you want to be the best and be a professional athlete, you should be doing those things. And like it would tear me up. I would dwell on it for so long because I was torn between my dream and then being judged. So that kind of stuck with me for a long time, and it took me a long time to be comfortable. Like at the end of the day, I was not being true to myself, which is kind of sad. I was kind of holding back on who I wanted to be, and it took me a long time to be comfortable with being myself and doing all the little things right and not caring what other people think of me when I was training and doing all of those other things. So
it's such a shame to hear that. But I think it's actually so real in Australia, the tall poppy syndrome. Every time anyone's doing well or trying really hard at something, it's actually so common for people to try and cut them down, which is something that I hate. And it's really sad that like that happened to you. But how good that you didn't let those friends and those comments influence you, because you see it time and time, young athletes coming through so talented and then want to do well but just don't want to be in that basket of trying hard. So good that you do that judgment.
Yeah, and I wouldn't like being serious and doing all the right things has given me so many incredible opportunities. Like a great example is that if I hadn't like been brave and stuck at it and taken my sport seriously, even when people might have been judging me. Like, Harriet, there's a lot of trips we wouldn't have gone on. Like, there's a lot of cool things I wouldn't have been able to do. And like, they've been the best experiences of my life. And being a professional athlete is my dream, and I'm loving living that. So it's great that I'm now like really accepting of it, but I want other people in a similar situation to just not be afraid to do what they're passionate about, because it will lead to awesome things, and like the ugly stuff doesn't last long. But yeah, it's tough.
And people might be able to resonate with that a little bit if they're potentially picking on someone because they're trying hard at something, or that other side of it as well, and make sure that you realize how they're feeling. So
yeah, because when you love something, like, you just like, it's really hard when you're not supported in doing that. So yeah, I guess the message is that like, if you see people trying really hard at things that you don't necessarily agree with, then like, you don't have to agree with it, but don't try and support them. Don't diss them.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing.
No worries.
And everyone, I hope that you enjoyed or took something out of our first vulnerability.
We didn't get much tea drinking in, did we?
I was drinking a little bit, but
mine's gone cold.
We'll be answering your questions each week. So
yeah, and there'll be another question box on the day that this is posted, so please put in more questions. Like, we are happy to answer anything. We got a lot of body image ones, which is good, except like, you can send through heaps of stuff. Like, we're happy to talk about all things if you want us to, so keep them coming.
All right, bye everyone.
Bye.